Yeah, but like if you take one of those tests, like there's like
that's true.
There's a lot of mutts walking around.
I have a buddy I teach with,
and
he took the test, and he came back like a percentage Neanderthal. I'm like, what? And if you see him, it totally makes sense.
Recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, the show welcomes Ethan McDonald back to the program. And we'll be discussing some wild stories from back in the day, including growing up with a parent with substance abuse issues, dating a high school girl while still in junior high, being jumped by a group of gang members after walking home from school, and getting in trouble for drawing inappropriate cartoons of teachers doing horrible acts. So without further ado, help me welcome back to the show the man who really needs no introduction at all. He's my buddy, the one and only Mr. Ethan McDonald. Slow clap. Ethan McDonald, welcome back to the show.
Ow! Happy to be here, Josh.
I'm happy to have you here. It's great time. Good times. Good times. Let's put this right towards you.
Yeah,
let's do this.
Move it right
let's
up
do this. Yeah, let's have a good time over here.
Let's get there.
So Ethan, we were talking earlier about some crazy stories that happened back in like junior high and high school.
Yeah.
And you probably have a lot more than I do, because I was kind of like,
You had a good family?
I was a shut-in with a semi-normal family.
Well, talking about, I had a good family, but they were not a normal family. Like, I love my mom and dad and my family, but yes, it was, there were times we were raised by wolves. It feels like a little bit.
Now, I think you've mentioned some of these stories in the past, like about your dad and your mom and stuff like that. But your dad, he's since, when did your dad, was it last year that he passed away?
Oh, man, like I said, my own personal history, I'm so terrible. 2 years ago now.
Oh, was it 2 years?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Sarah could tell me if she was here. She keeps track of it. It was definitely more than a year ago. Yeah, but my dad passed. And luckily, my dad and I ended up in a very good spot.
Oh, good.
Good place. Yeah. A lot of forgiveness. And he was always very quick to be apologetic. And just one of those things too, like you never know, your parents went through things, your parents had their demons. They were probably got in the same, struggles with their parents. And, but when you're young, you don't know or necessarily care. You're just pissed off that things, especially when you have families around you that have a good family and you see mom and dad get along and they're not dealing with alcoholism or a bunch of other things or sisters with drug use or other stuff. It's like, well, how come their family's so normal and ours can't be? And I just was like, rather than really understand like why people had made the decisions they made, I was just angry.
Now, your dad, you said he had some alcohol related issues.
Yes.
Now, what kind of booze was his? What was his go-to? What kind of alcohol?
It's hard for me to really know because so much of him was working nights. He worked at Palmer G. Lewis, like a big warehouse. It's kind of like, I think they have a different name now, Huddig or something, but it's one of these big like building supplies. So he did a lot of loading of trucks at night.
Okay.
He worked a lot of graveyard shifts and swing shifts. So like we barely saw Dad. He worked opposite of like a normal human schedule often. So we'd only see him after he had been at the bars with his buddies and he would come home 3 sheets to the wind and you just never knew what you're getting. It's not like he was always a mean drunk. There's sometimes he was a goofy drunk. There's sometimes where he was incredibly inappropriate and embarrassing drunks. There was times where you just never knew what you were getting, but there were times where he was angry or aggressive about something. It's like whatever emotions he was going through, it just seemed like they got turned up to 11.
So he's primarily, I don't know why I'm sticking with this, but he's primarily a bar drinker. He wasn't drinking at home.
I didn't see him drink at home much. I mean, he might have had some beers at home and stuff, but I think he was pretty terrified of my mom. Because if you remember my mom, Josh,
she's very intimidating.
Karen McDonald's where I get my size from. It's not John McDonald. Yeah, Karen she was a 5'11", Mack truck, 5'10", whatever her height was. But she's definitely where I get my bulk and my size. Yeah. My dad was a skinny punk, kind of like you, and I'm just joking. But needless to say, like definitely got more of my size because I think I passed up my dad in height in 7th grade and weight in 5th grade.
Wow.
So like just in terms of, and I was always a big kid, as you recall, when you met me in middle school or junior high, I was 6'4" and 190 pounds or something like that. Not many 7th graders are usually that size.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my dad he was he had problems just from his own dad being an alcoholic to serving in the military. He was a military policeman. And I think his number one way of like all the stress he went through, all the terrible things he had gone through, was just drink was his way of escape. It was just, and so it's like he said it was kind of a pattern he thought he was going to break, but everything he went through and tons of weird injuries. Like there's crazy stuff. Like I didn't realize he was like a pretty competitive, like amazing competitive swimmer. And
really
his best friend. Yeah. Cause he grew up in Federal Way. He grew up on Steel Lake in Federal Way. They had a house right on this. So he just grew up in a lake like a fish, just swimming all the time. It was this incredible, like, man, and he took us to the pool. Like he could swim. Like,
really? That's interesting.
He could fly. And I'm like, God, he's always trying to teach us. And I was always frustrated because I have a different body composition than my dad, as we just discussed. So I sank like a freaking rock. I didn't like, so swimming was really hard and effort, but my dad, like, he taught us how to swim. Like,
I love hearing stuff like that because it's kind of like you were bringing up that story with the old lady from Christmas Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you're like, oh, no, she was like this big actress back in the day, and Betty Boop.
Sweet Betty. Betty Boop's been winning fans for more than 50 years, and so is the woman who played this funny flapper, Mae Questel.
Max Streicher was looking for an unusual voice, and I went up to see him, and that's how I became Betty Boop, but I am Betty Boop all the time.
Mae also provided the voice for another of the great women of the screen, Olive Oyl.
Oh, dear. Don't know what to say. That was Olive Oyl. But it was really Zazu Pitts.
But after all these years, she remains identified with one character more than any other.
People will stop me and they say, I recognize your voice. It's Betty Boop. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, you just see there's this crazy old lady who wrapped up her cat that's hilarious in the movie. But
oh dear, did I break wind?
Yeah, and by the time I met your dad, he's like, I didn't really know, I didn't have too many words with your dad, but he was always super nice to me. I would just pass him into the going to the garage.
Listening to Susie Q?
And he was listening to Susie Q
on repeat. Over and over again.
Susie Q, baby, I love you.
The worst singing voice ever. He's where I got all my cartooning skills from too. He could cartoon. He got in trouble at work all the time.
I love hearing this.
He would draw cartoons of his boss and like make fun of him. They called him Fish Pecker.
That's awesome.
They just like, he had a really raunchy sense of humor.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, he's the one that, of course, and like, he would probably roll over if he knew I was telling this story, but I know I was like, I was at 12. We were up in Black Diamond, so this would be right after 7th grade. So we moved from down in downtown Auburn in the Valley, lived on Old E Street forever. We moved up to Black Diamond. I think my dad had gotten some money from inheritance, whatever. This is like this beautiful house out in the woods. And I had this girlfriend at the time, and it's a whole long story. This legendary girl by the name of I should probably say names on here. You might have to help me with that, Josh, to make sure.
I'm guessing she doesn't listen to the show.
Well, let's hope not, but you'd be surprised. She's weird. So she's on Facebook and stuff. She still makes strange comments at times.
Okay.
So I had this girlfriend.
All right.
Thank you. I had this girlfriend at the time that was up there, and we were definitely a little more physically active than a young man at my age should be. But remember, I look like and I lied to this girl. Told her
was she older than you?
Oh, yeah. She was 17.
Okay.
And I was going into 8th grade. I was 13. Said because when you're as big as I am, I could say at first she believed it, which should have been my first like red flag that this is not healthy is when she found out my real age.
And then
that wasn't a deal breaker.
It didn't change anything.
No. So
it was a different time.
Someone to manipulate with all my buddies because we all like this is like the first girl that was attractive and like paid attention to us. We're like, whoa, like none of us handled it well. Jeremy, Woody, we were all schmitten.
Yeah.
But needless to say, my dad finds me upstairs messing around with her, and I want to say we were half naked or I don't know. And he's like, calls me down. I think I'm going to get like, you think a dad walks in on you, that case, it's like a good dad is going to ream you out.
Yeah. What the hell are you doing, man?
The weird thing is her family's staying at our house right now because her mom was dating my dad's best friend who was like remodeling the house. It's a whole thing. So there's nowhere really for her to go. She's kind of mortified. I come down. My dad, unbeknownst to me, is 3 sheets to the wind. He was drinking something at the house. I don't think he was working that day, but he says, sits me down at the table, wants to make sure I know what a condom is. And I'm like, yeah, I do, Dad. Okay. And he's like, we got it. And the secondarily goes, you know what, Ethan? You fuck them all. You tell your friends about the hot ones.
Wow. Your dad said that?
It's almost like he thought he was talking to one of his warehouse buddies. Like he didn't know who he's like, this is not the advice you give your 13-year-old son. This is one of several things. This is a different conversation, but a different conversation.
So that's where you got that saying that you used for years after that.
That's what I'm just saying. And I think I usually told people ahead of times this came from my dad, or maybe I added that in later in college, just like people knew where I was coming from. But yeah, that's where he got that one. He was also the one that told me, and I think this is one of his many warehouse jokes. Like he always had the best jokes because he worked at a warehouse, a bunch of other blue collar guys.
Yeah, sure.
Beer drinking, good, tough. You know, he goes, he saw me talking to this one girl when he picked me up. And this is like maybe ninth grade or football. Or I was just talking to this girl. I can't even think of her name. I won't say. She used to manage us in high school. She's one of her football managers, but great gal, a little heavy set. My dad goes, you know what's awesome about, what do you say? You know why fat girls, he had two. It was, one of them was about, fat girls are like mopeds. They're fun to ride, but don't let your friend catch you. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Dad.
Jesus.
And he says, you know why fat girls had to be good at giving head or something like, what the fuck? I was like, because they have to be. Just like
God.
Brutal stuff. And my dad thinks he's funny. And I think maybe he's just trying to crack humor with his teenage son.
But if you could turn around and tell your 8th grade friends.
Oh, those were gold.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It was like, as you said the other day, we were in the car with our girls. I might be the raunchiest friend, but now you understand a little bit why. This is the sage-like advice being handed to me as a young man.
Yeah, because like your dad
Highly
brought the
offensive
bar home with him, right?
Dude, he did in just the warehouse. And it's like, but he didn't know who he was always talking to. And like I said, if he was in a good mood, if he was in a bad mood, but it was just like crazy. So like, and a lot of the close friends I was growing up with in elementary were all from similar broken homes. Like Brent had parents that were both, dealing with drugs and alcohol abuse, and they're taking turns kidnapping Brent from the other parent. Like, man. I mean, there's like, he was like a ransom story, and it's amazing what an amazing guy Kip turned out to be, despite we
were just talking about that the other day. I was like, God, he's such a nice. How did I describe him? He's like so well mannered and like just very polite and
always putting everybody before himself.
And
he's just the best guy.
A lot of the time that happens too, where you have like such a. It either goes one way or the other, where it's like, man, like this dad was like just a piece of shit, like beating the shit out of people and like, drug addict. And then he became a piece of shit drug addict, or they were like, I don't ever want to be that guy.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be the opposite of that guy. And I'm going to move to Hermiston, Oregon, and I'm going to live in Pleasantville.
As you know, because we were all pretty straight edge. You've talked about this many times on the pod, right? And that was one of the reasons that we fit in so well together, because I didn't drink till I was 21.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, even when we went to Canada at 19, we didn't partake in any of that stuff. We were up there for other reasons.
Yeah.
And if you remember our great journey at 19 to the Cecil, a legendary moment. I still see John's face sometimes and like, that was one of the funniest things. Oh my God. Just great moments in history. But needless to say, so just growing up in that background with other families that were broken, was just a weird, I don't know, just it put me in a lot of weird situations. And
no, so you were talking about how we had some friends, and you don't say names because like we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or start any shit.
Well, and my memory is limited at best too, just because I have been hit in the head many times.
Yeah,
and so I might be slightly but the way I remember, these would be stories the way I remember. And please, friends, if you figure out who I'm talking about, and I'm saying anything wrong, like Brent would be easy to. He's like my memory.
And by the way, some of these guys that we grew up with that were kind of like, assholes or whatever. Like some of these guys grew up to be pretty good dudes, like it's just,
even the friend that we're going to talk about the story about was always like one of the best friends. He just had uncontrollable anger towards the way this world had treated him, and understandably so, and didn't like anyone who hurt anybody in his little family collection of friends that he trusted. I mean, he was just that kind of,
I loved hanging out with that guy.
Yeah. He was like I would almost say like the perfect junkyard dog. Like he loved his owners, like the people, and that lessens him so much because he's so much more complicated than that. But like you mess with any of us, man. And like he had a dog that scared the shit out of me.
Really?
Oh my God. It's one of those, it looked like a junkyard. It had like one blue eye, one green eye. And he was the meanest SOB of a dog. Like if you even did anything like you were going to fake fight this friend, right? Like even pretend to go punch him. Like this dog looked like it would take your throat out, like something out of a Cujo movie. But that was almost like this guy to a degree. Like you mess with anybody he cared about, he was like that. He didn't like.
It's kind of like Murr. Kind of like Murr.
A little bit, Rational thought kind of kicked off, and he went to some, like his eyes rolled back like a shark, and he was just, because in this story that we were talking about, and then you're like, save this. So middle school, junior high, we had this group of just jackass wannabe gangsters, if you recall. It was kind of the really big culture of the time.
Yeah, the Crips, the Bloods, like
there was that real
the areas
shit
of
going
town.
on. But then we had these parts of our town where wannabe, like there was some gang called Metal Militia or I don't know. They were like where Brent lived. And so Brent lived in and I don't think he'll be embarrassed by this, but clearly when you have two parents that are dealing with addiction stuff, he was in a low income housing community that was not too far from where you live, but that Burndale area.
Sure. I was friends with half of those guys.
Yeah. And you went to elementary with most of those guys, Manny, all those guys. So once I got to know Brent, and Brent and I were best friends back from 5th grade when he went to my elementary for a short time before his whole family blew up again and dad moved to God knows where. And I lost track of Brent because he just disappeared one day. And then he shows up and writes a little note on my door and I'm back. And he's living with his mom now, but he's over there and going to Dick Scobie at the end of 6th grade or whatever when you got to know him.
Yeah.
Started hanging out with Kip again. But so I go to Kip's house. I got in detention a lot because I was a troubled kid myself, and I had some friends that didn't always make the best decisions, and I like to mouth off quite a bit in class. And I had detention. I don't know how long it was for here in 7th grade, but it was after football season was over because I didn't like getting in trouble with Spangler. He would always yell at me.
Spangler.
Yeah, I love Spangler. He was the best. Dude. Mike Spangler was a legend.
Man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
He was just one of the best.
That's awesome.
But he really let me have it and make me do extra conditioning, and I didn't like that. But as soon as football was over, I didn't really have anything to make me behave, and I got detention. I'm sitting one day in detention, and I can't remember whose classroom it is, but I can remember like these things. It's weird, like certain memories are so fresh in my mind. This kid's scaring the shit out of me because I know this kid. He's like a grade or 2 above us. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think he was a grade ahead of us, and he was scary, dude. Like
he was scary, and
he was because like he just had that reputation.
And
I've
never met him. I never had a class with him. So I'm just sitting there in detention, kind of bebopping around, looking around, and then I keep looking over and he keeps going at me like, you motherfucker. And I'm like, looking around, like, I'm looking like, is he talking to a guy behind me? Because I don't even know who, I don't know this guy.
Shit my pants.
Yeah,
dude.
I don't know. I'm like, oh.
By the way, real quick, my dad didn't even know who that was. And my dad said he got a phone call from, you remember Rick? Rick had that house that overlooked the park.
Yeah.
Like just perfectly overlooked the park. And he goes, hey, get over here. You got to see this. And just like these two like kind of like gang, and they would just beat the shit out of each other over there at the park. And my dad's like, yeah, I know that. I know of that kid.
Yeah,
I was like, I'd watch him like beat the shit out of people over there. And I'm like, Jesus, man. Like, he's like, hey, don't be fucking around. If you see these guys, like just go home. Like
I was honestly trying. I didn't know any. I had no reason. Like I think he just thought, hey, here's a big kid.
Yeah.
So I'm like done with detention, and I'm just trying to sneak out the back way, and I'm trying to sneak out by the softball field to walk over to Burndale. Kind of snuck out the back way, and there used to be this way you could go out there between like the building. You used to have the wood shop. And the building had like comm or whatever, and they used to have a gate, but this time it's freaking locked. So when I sneak out that way, thinking I get this back escape, I'm there, and all of a sudden, not only Daryl, but like 6 of his little gangster wannabe buddies. So now I'm outnumbered 7-1.
Oh God!
And I'm like, and there's nowhere for me to go because the fence was freaking tall. In my mind, it feels like it was 20 feet high. I know it was probably like 8 feet.
I'm just picturing the Karate Kid when he tries to climb up the fence.
I can't crawl that bitch. That's all I know. And my big fat ass. So I'm sitting on this like, oh man. And I basically just like, after the first kid swings at me, I just kind of collapse into the fetal position. I just thought I'm going to get the ass kicking of my life. And I got pretty bruised up on my back from taking kicks. But all of a sudden I'm hearing like people get hit. And I'm kind of like, I'm not being kicked. And I kind of look up and around. McCoy Pettibone, Dennis Pettibone, and their oldest brother, John, who's like, I've seen arrested, I think twice.
Whoa.
He was like, looked like
I wasn't even aware of
they were around.
John. Yeah.
And they saw them from a distance and they couldn't stand those guys. And so I don't know where they came from. McCoy's bike was over on the other side of the fence. So I don't know if they climbed. Like they just came in. The 3 of them, the 3 Pettibone brothers started kicking the shit out of all the gangsters that were beating me up.
So it's like Miyagi saving Danielson.
It's kind of like that. It was because I fell in love with these obviously these Polynesian brothers.
Yeah.
Because McCoy was always just one of the best human beings ever. Always loved Dennis too, even though Dennis got a little more into that side of the world, but he was nothing but awesome to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know John. John was terrifying because he was much older than those guys. He was like yoked like McCoy, like just naturally built, a little bit taller. And I think one time Brent and I saw him getting like handcuffed and put in a cop car, and he like kneed the cop car dented. I don't know. It was like crazy. He was a scary dude. But he like just like picked me up like, you okay, man? And I'm like, yeah. And McCoy's like, what's up, man? You know, with a smile at McCoy, afterwards, because those guys took off running. And like, we don't like those guys. I'm like, no, I could tell. Thank you. And so they kind of were talking, walking
That's
back.
wild,
back
dude.
to Burndale, and it was at Brent's. And so our friend finds out about this. He had already had apparently run. I don't know the whole backstory there, but he had a run in with these guys and he's frustrated and I don't know exactly where he acquired it or came, but all of a sudden he comes to school one day with a 22 and he's going to shoot Daryl. He's going to because F you. Kind of, like I said, he was a guy that was like the loyal junkyard dog. You don't mess. And I'm sure it had more to do with they must have beef, but this was just one more thing that accumulated and tired of this and the whole metal militia. He was sick of it. Yeah. And so they capture him.
And it's one of those things too, where it's listen, you could fuck with me.
Yeah.
But if you fuck with my
friends, man, that's
brothers.
Yeah. Always super loyal like that. It was one of my dad's favorite friends too, because whenever we were doing any kind of the crazy work, shit that nobody wanted to do, right? And you're trying to dupe your friends into coming over to help you to make this because you needed more hands, just some of the terrible yard work. Anytime we had anything like that, he would be the first guy to volunteer and would show up early and almost work through the end. And I almost think he was just so happy to have any positive male adult. My dad just loved him. And so when we moved in that house, when we finally moved back down closer to you guys, we were converting the garage into a bedroom. I want to say this kid put in more work than I did in my own bedroom.
Really?
He would just show up and be working with my dad. And I'd feel like crap. And my dad's like, no, I'm actually glad you're not here. You're not very helpful. He's helpful. And he was just like that. He was just I don't know. Like I said, he was such a good hearted dude. I absolutely loved him.
Hell of a basketball player too.
Oh man, he could
ball. He was good. He was a baller.
And he had just slick moves, man. Yeah. He wasn't the tallest. It was pretty good when he played Sandlot with us too. He could catch the ball and was just, and he was
scrappier,
so he was not afraid to come in face first for a tackle. What are you doing, man?
Those good times of those basketball games up there.
Oh man, Lakeview.
Lakeview.
Those are classic battles, man. Yeah. Those are fun. But awesome. That was just some of the wild crap, because he got expelled from school. And then, it became a part where it was so much harder to see him just because he started to go different ways. But he went through, what I went through as a kid, his was turned way up in terms of all the crap he had to go through.
You said that there was a moment, he was
I was way young. I was in elementary when he came over and found us and he had darts in his back because, his mom, and I love his mom. Mom was a really sweet lady, but had many different boyfriend because I want to say his birth dad was a trucker. They originally, when we were growing up, they were in a house that I think eventually got torn down to expand the shop at Auburn High School. Remember they made the shop. Maybe you don't remember this because you didn't live in that neck of the woods, but there used to be these houses right behind Forward Thrust, the pool.
Okay,
and they were all part there, and they were they got all bought out and the district bought them so they could expand the auto shop program or whatever. So they lived there forever and then moved several places. To me, it felt like that every year or two they were moving somewhere. It was always in Auburn. But they were part of those kids that went to Washington Elementary. So, we had him, we had Johnny Hess, Blaine Rutledge. It was just a bunch of all these guys that loved to get together, play sports, get after it. And just playing Sandlot any chance we could get, all that, and those are some of the best dudes right there. Blaine, Johnny, those are just legends. We had that great group of guys along with, eventually getting to know when Woody moved in from Washington. There was just about Brent, like I said, for a year there. And we had a great group of guys that really loved their athletics to get and loved playing street football and all kinds of stuff, but all kind of came from kind of rough backgrounds.
Were there any moments where you got in any fights after that?
I got,
post junior high, or did
people? Most people didn't want to fight me.
Yeah,
so
that's what I remember.
I could just try to be muscle. And the fact is, I was probably more terrified inside because I was a deeply insecure kid from all the shit that I went through. Where I just figured out really quick though, but if I act like I'm not, if I fake it, a lot of people are terrified.
That goes a long way. We used to always talk about this. You remember you didn't go out as much, but you may remember there was this big Samoan guy downtown Seattle. And he was a bouncer at a lot of these clubs. He was the scariest fucking guy I've ever seen in my entire life. He must have been over 300 pounds. He was a massive, one of the biggest guys I've ever seen. Just this giant dude, right? And he was had one of those natural, just crazy, but and then he'd be like, ID. And you're like, oh my God, I can't get it out fast enough. And you're like, here's the idea. But I heard him one time and he's all talking. He's every guy like this is my buddy Eric is the nicest guy. And everybody is is a big, intimidating dude.
Especially the Polynesians.
These guys are
most chill,
super
laid back,
nice dudes,
super nice dudes.
Obviously everybody could be mean, but most of these guys are so nice and nice and sweet. But if you can fake a lot of that to people and they will fucking stay away from you. Well, I remember, listen, Lee he's one of those guys that has that technique where he can look like the scariest fucking dude ever.
He'd do that, and I just laugh because I'm like, I know Lee. Like, he's not scary at all. He'd probably laugh at me if I was trying to be tough, though.
He was one of those guys that had that crazy strength, though.
Good bodily strength.
But I mean, if he wanted to get you out of the bar, he could do it real quick. Yes. But Lee could just get away with doing that really fucking crazy angry face, and you're like, dude, you're scaring me, Lee. You're scaring me.
Lee and I could, especially as roommates.
And then remember, he had the big beard, and he was like that black, and he was like. He looked like he was in one of those like metal rock bands, you know.
Looks like he's like Kerry King of Slayer,
right? Yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, you can't. You just get away faking it because, I mean, I got in a couple scrapes. Sadly, most of my fights were against my dad when he was in the dog. Sometimes early on he won, and then later on I, won a few. But it was just, and I was always fighting with just like stupid. I remember James Murr and I got in a fight once because he touched Celeste's butt in high school, and I was too much of a. And you knew me. I had this weird ass. Like I could be really good to most of the guys, but there's a handful of people like Andy. There's people that just piss me off from day one.
Yeah, well, some of the guys and
I don't know why, and I just didn't give them any room to grow or become something different. Like Andy, I don't feel bad about because Andy's a piece of crap. But James is a decent guy, and I just for whatever reason he just rubbed me wrong and made me pissed a lot of the time.
I think that I remember. I will never forget. And I've had these conversations with Murr too. So it's not like I'm talking behind his back, even though we are talking about his back. But you know what I mean? No, but Murr, he was always one of those guys that was always good at talking to anybody he just came up to. And I remember he knew Ryan, right? But he didn't know the rest of us. And he came up to our tight group that we were like sitting at lunch one time. He's like, so yeah, you guys, blah, blah. And he just started acting like we were like old buddies. And I just remember looking at you and you're just like eating your fries or whatever. And you're like, who the fuck is this? And I was like, I couldn't stop looking at you because the dynamic of you, like, who the fuck is this guy? Because he was like, a couple years or you're younger
than us.
Yeah. So like, you're like, who's this? And why is he talking to us like we're old pals? You know, so
I don't know.
I always thought that was kind of like the
weird things like that
annoying thing that you rubbed you the wrong way.
Well, and James, like you said, he'd been.
I was always kind of amused because I was like, this guy's kind of funny,
and he was kind of like a loyal guy. I mean, and like playing ball. Like I have no reason. In fact, right now, mature. Like I was an asshole. I was a jerk. I was a problem. And James was just like, and he did touch my girlfriend's butt in high school. But I think he tried to tackle me, and I choked him with my arm, and then we just kind of said, "This is stupid. Let's go different ways." And we did. Like, I have got no issue with him. James is a great dude.
And I don't think he would give a shit. He'd laugh. He'd probably say, "I probably fucking deserved it."
James, sorry, I was an asshole, and I was just an insecure dipshit kid like all of us. And so sorry if I was a dick.
But James is like one of those guys that I love too because like he became like a little brother. Like, he was like and he would do anything for you. He's like that. What said, he was like exactly what you were talking about. Like loyal. Perry, he was exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And he would fucking do anything for you. Like there were several times that we were like, all right, we're in a bad situation here. And then Ryan's like, I'll call Murr.
Yeah.
And Murr would come down. He's like dead sleeping. He's like, God damn it. And he's like, come down. He's like, I know who you're talking about. How do you know who we're talking about? We're in the middle of a bar in the middle of nowhere. He's like, I know who it is. I'm like, weird. He's like, knows all the low lives in town. But yeah, no, I love that though. Cause like he was always someone you could count on. And he was always like a loyal dude, man. Loyal dude. But so when you were back in the day, no one would screw with you. That's not why much.
Occasionally, yes.
Well, so one of the things that and I've said this before, I was like, I became friends with Woody first, and then Woody's like, he was like
Woodrow Wilson. It was Woodrow Wilson. Wilson. It was Wilson Ellsworth Esterly the Fourth. I want to put Woodrow Wilson because that's a president. I'm a history teacher, but it was Wilson Ellsworth Esterly the Fourth, and the third was Big Woody, and he was Little Woody when we called the house, which is one of my favorite phone calls I ever had. Do you want Big Woody or Little Woody? I think if I'm going to take one, I'll take the Little Woody.
I'll take Little Woody. Yeah.
Sorry. Did
he like that? Did he?
No, he hated that. I'm sure he hated that. That still drove him nuts. Yeah.
That was going to his house was one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. It was
there was all those kids they were taking care of that were all Down syndrome, and they're like from the ones that were just so fun, like a Nathan, which is like the athlete one. He was just like, no, like, you know, he was awesome. To Jeff, who was this older one, he was like really quiet, but I always liked Jeff, and Daniela's sister. And they had a couple that were a little more flamboyant or strange and stuff like that.
It was kind of like stick to different rooms. So like, it was like
unique.
Going into a different room. It was like, what's going on in this room over here?
Yeah.
Oh, it's over here.
It's like, this sounds so terrible, and I'm so afraid.
No,
it was like this weird human zoo, like going from room to room, and like, what's going on in here?
It was very, and Woody would be always, you know, Woody was kind of like just like it was kind of just like an older brother situation where he'd be just like, he would be annoyed and he'd fucking, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh God, that's really mean. Or Woody.
No, but he's
but yeah, it's just like he's living with them. So it's like,
yeah, I think he had a biological brother and sister. So like Ricky and Jen. But then they had all these kids, and mom, and like they did a great job with those kids. It was awesome.
Yeah, and that was
one of my all-time favorites.
Cool big house, like in the middle of like downtown, like
that's pretty far from Old Massey's where it used to be. Old Massey's grocery. That's more my end of town than yours. So
yeah.
It's like,
yeah, it's pretty wild.
So you met Woody, and then is that how? Like,
so basically, he's like, hey, we're gonna. I don't know how it happened, but I remember going down that one hallway at Cascade, and Woody's like, hey, let's go this way, and you see Ethan's head, and you just see the parting of the sea.
When I just plow through the crowd,
and I was like, oh my God, this is so mean, but it's fun. Yeah. It's fucking fun. Ethan, you did not give a shit. I mean, you girls like little nice girls like with their backpacks and like a thing of books, just like falling against like a locker, and like, and you just see like teachers like moving out of the way, and I'm like, wow, he doesn't even give a shit, and I'm following right behind this.
Do you remember Mr. Hagen?
Oh yeah, Mr. Hagen was drunk in our.
Oh, I love Mr. Hagen. So Mr. Hagen, awesome. I was plowing through one of those halls doing that, and he just goes like, yeah, and he just hops in behind me, and he's just like.
Yeah.
He was completely compliant as I'm just plowing through people. That got me through the hallway a hell of a lot faster.
I think we saw Mr. Hagen looking at a Playboy in our 8th grade history class.
Dude, that's awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
I love Mr. Hagen.
And then there was a couple times where like someone asked for help and stuff like that. They're like, I swear to God, it smells like bourbon on his breath.
It was a different time. That totally could be. He was one of my basketball coaches too.
But he's always nice. He was always a nice guy. Yeah.
The other one I was thinking of too, there was another social studies teacher. Not the old one, because Miss Emerson, that was one of my favorite stories of our buddy we were talking about earlier, the one that unfortunately got kicked out of school. But he came to class with like a Corona hat on or something like that. And what was her name? Gosh,
Corona hat. Like, it sounds so innocent.
Miss Emerson. She was like this super ancient. She looked like she was going to die.
Miss Emerson, yes.
Yes, and she was just like
so she looks like this super old lady. I mean, even for like even teaching, like she like, how have you not retired years ago, Miss? She looked like, you know who she looked like, Ethan? This is what I'm picturing in my head. Have you ever seen Don't Tell the Mom the Babysitter's Dead? Remember the babysitter that died? Yes. That looks like her. That looks like her.
Yeah, that's not far off. Our buddy comes in with the hat and everything, and she like kicks him out, and he's like, screw you, gets in this whole match. And so then I mess with her because it's like early on, like in the first couple of weeks, she has these cards passed out, and I think she forgot that she kicked our buddy out of class. And so I have the card that's on his desk, and I write a fake person's name. I think a name, and Brent would remember that. I think his name was Bert Beetlebow. I just made something dumb, not something that was completely offensive or be obvious. For weeks, she continued to call, like, where is this Bert Beetlebow? Like every day looking for, like, why isn't he here? He hasn't been to school very often. Like, and this is probably when they kept like paper grade books. And so I'm sure Bert Beetlebow was in there. She's like marking absent every day. Like, thought it was a real student because there was an extra card and I was an idiot and just wrote dumb crap onto it. Just being like every day, like Brent would laugh. Sometimes Brent would try to throw his voice because he did all those weird impersonations of like Gizmo and say, I don't know. And she'd like, oh, okay. She like marked that he's there. Like, I don't know what's like, it was just the stupidest things ever we used to do. Like, that's cool. But there was another teacher who taught like Indian, I don't know, like it wasn't like Native American history is probably better, but I swear it was like Indian cultures was the name of the class. And she was the nicest lady. I go in there. I don't think I did an assignment the entire year, Josh. I got an A because I just draw her pictures, or I draw if you remember, I used to draw pictures of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I could draw them like, so people were like paying me money at lunch.
Wow.
And like would be giving, like, I used to go around to say, you got any spare change at lunch? People were like, yeah, here, like give me like 75 cents because I was gigantic.
Yeah.
And so at the end of a Friday, I'd have like $20 and I go, Brent, we're going to Shakey's. We're getting pizza. We're like, so we could walk over from Burndale and go rent at the little video store over there. And like,
oh man,
M&E's or something. Like, I can't
sounds
remember.
awesome.
Yeah. We'll just like get like Madden and we play Madden. Like, and I was racketeering. Like poor kids are just throwing money at me.
I did something similar like that. Like I'd stop at the little Villa shopping center.
Oh, yeah, the Villa.
And then I'd buy a whole big bag of like candy for like $5 and I'd sell it for like 20.
Oh, dude.
And I was like, this is awesome. This is
Mark it
like,
up.
yeah, I was like, oh, you know what? This is how business works, right? This is exactly how business works. Too bad I didn't utilize this in the future.
You had the whole business background. You could have wrote a whole.
People are like, man, this is genius. I was like, I mean, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
No, it's so smart, but there's people that do that stuff all the time. So I see kids doing that in my
it's all about
classroom as a
convenience,
teacher
right?
now.
It's just all about convenience.
I'll pay more just because you have it here now.
Yep, exactly.
Like I have kids, like I keep a little fridge by my desk as a teacher.
Yep.
I've got like a couple sodas in there stuff because one of my vices, I like a little diet soda every now and then. And kids will come up and go, what do you got in that fridge, McD? So my old kids I've coached in sports for years. I'm like, none of your damn business. And they're like, no, I want to know. I'm like, well, maybe it's Diet Pepsi. He goes, I'll pay you $2 for a damn Pepsi. I'm like, I'm not like, part of me is like, this would be, but like as a teacher, that seems like, like no, man, you got to go down and get your own pop in your own time. I'm not selling my pops up here. And like, but I'm like, man, I could really make it if I really, and I'm like, no, that's not going to go that route.
Yeah. You were telling that story about how you would draw pictures for money. Well, did you ever hear that story? This was a Mr. Hagen was out. This is actually Mr. Hagen's class.
Okay.
And they had who's that Texan guy that filled in the substitute?
Yeah,
they called him Old Tex or whatever his name was. Anyway, I can't remember his name.
I can't either, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then
big old.
And then, I would always draw pictures, but they were like a little bit more inappropriate, like pictures.
Really?
Where like there'd be kind
more
of like
inappropriate than me. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, not the Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
You got way worse.
Yeah,
you got 10 times worse than I did.
I was drawing worse stuff before that. I just didn't sell those at school.
You'd make them like medieval, like torture, like you're way crazier,
album stuff,
more intricate than I was. Mine were like dumb Simpson looking, like stupid caricatures, whatever. So I drew this one of Tex, but it was like just a dumb picture. And I showed it to like one of the guy next to me, and the guy next to me passed it behind the next person, and it kept going down the goddamn hall.
So it gets, of course, to his hands.
Yeah, and he goes, and he looks at it, and he goes,
"Who drew this?"
No, he looks at, he just stares at it, and he goes, "This is pretty good. Who did this?" And I was like, everyone's like fucking pointing at me. I'm like, oh fuck.
Similar story. Jumped to high school. I don't know if you remember this story, or if you heard this at all. So I'm bored one day, and I'm really pissed at our language arts teacher. I just felt like she was mean to anyone that was a football player. And so I started drawing this picture of her, and then Brian Peterson, who was a year younger than us, was on the football team. Mm-hmm. Brian's like, oh, dude, you got to add Bliss, or you got to add like some of these other. So I ended up drawing, and it ends up calling it the Auburn High School STD family. And these were all pictures of our teachers with various STDs. And they were
what, do you still have this?
No.
Can you redo it?
I'm drawing it, and like Brian is crying, laughing. This is the greatest thing ever. And he's like, dude, you got to let me borrow this. And I should have known that was a bad idea. Should have known. He literally grabs this thing, and he goes to the next class. And as I understand it, I think the next class was literally Miss Roosevelt, who was our.
All right.
And I just didn't particularly get along with her. I mean, she's probably a great teacher at the time. Like I think about what an asshole I was as a kid. I'm amazed any of these teachers dealt with me at all. But at the time, I was not fond of her, and I drew this very intricate picture. And he takes it in that class. Well, it gets confiscated. To my luck, she's so mad, and she knows I'm a football player. My luck and to my detriment, she brings it to Jones rather than bring it to like Lipinski or any of the assistant principals, right? So it's worse in a way because it's Jones, who is the last guy I ever want to let down. But it's also better because in the long run, Jones is going to cut me some slack because he also knows what an idiot I am, and he's trying to make me into a better human being. And this is just one more great conversation where he can weigh in and help me realize what a jackass I am. So I go in because this is senior year.
Did he ever laugh at that stuff and then like punish you? Or
so this is the story. So
because he was pretty serious about certain things.
He was. I walk in to his office the next morning, not realizing this had been like gotten there.
Yeah.
Because I never thought, I hadn't seen Brian the rest of the day. Like I should have probably saw him I can't remember. This might have been after football season too. So I wouldn't have seen him at practice. I can't remember exactly. I come in, and it just so happens that Brame is in there with him in the morning. Because this is when he's the AD, and he's got that office in the Performing Arts Center, like there in the end. And so Peggy's in there, and Steph Olay, who's like a secretary. That might be before Peggy was a secretary. I can't remember because I've rambled the years that I was coaching.
And by the way, Brame kind of looked like John Matuzak without a beard, but with a mustache, with a crazy mustache, and the crazy eyes.
Coach, and he was tough as nails and scared the hell out of me. He said some of the scariest things I've ever heard of him. And he was a hell of a coach, but man, he intimidated me. So I'm in there, and he's like, and Jones is just like, Steve, you know when he turned red?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's like, and he goes, I need to talk to you. This like matter than when I wrote that stuff about Brock Huard in the paper, or said that stuff about Brock Huard. I got in trouble for that.
You got to talk about that too, but yeah, go ahead.
That's another one. So yeah. And then, so what a jackass I am. I'm amazed I'm here. I'm amazed I'm married.
How did that happen?
I don't know. So yeah, as I'm running my mouth, as I'm now trying to grovel, I'm like, and he's like, what is this? And he brings it out. He's like, this is like, where do you even come up with this horse shit? Like, can you just get stupid? Like, he is just let me have it. And I'm just like, oh, because this is the worst. Like letting your mom down. Like, I'm not mad at you. I'm disappointed, but these both disappointed and mad. He's telling me like, I'm going to run every morning because I was his TA.
Yeah.
So like first period, that's where I reported to. And like, he had to get a call. And I think it's the guy that ends up actually being my boss, Rob Riddle at Athletic Supply, but he has to take, so he goes in his office and Brame is sitting there like, just like, yeah, you're a dumbass. As soon as Jones leaves, he goes, this is awesome. He points and turns a page like, oh my God. Like he's being like, was this well, Bob walks back and he's like, and I can't believe it. So immediately switches back like, how dare you like just reaming me? And I'm like, and as soon as Jones leaves, he goes like, I'm going to keep a copy of this. I just got to like, he thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But he had to go along with Bob.
Sure.
And so, but he's like, the next time I see Brame, he's like, I didn't realize you're so talented. Like you can really like, I'm like, my dad was so.
You did a full page drawing
per teacher with different STDs on each of them because
it was like a book. It was like a book
it was stapled together. Yes. On notebook. It was because
you also did that for like everybody's annual. Like,
I draw these like pictures. Some of them very inappropriate.
He'd be like, hold on, you're like, let me take this over in the corner. And you like, sit there, and he's like sitting there drawing these like crazy pictures. Like, I could put up. I mean, I have mine still.
Yeah,
I have mine.
There you go. Please
probably something to do with the Dolphins or something. Okay, whatever.
Good, because some of them were not very. A lot of them were very inappropriate pictures. Like just the stupidest things ever. I was just but
they were fun, man. Like, it was like fun. You're really good at like. Do you still do?
No, I don't do it much. I mean, every now and then I'll doodle something on the board and the kids are like, whoa, like in my classroom because it's here. But like, it's like, no, because I don't really have any need to. So that's
Brock Huard, he's is a great announcer now.
Does a great job.
He is actually really good. He's like very well spoken and very knowledgeable. He's one of the best in college football, right? I mean, and honestly, he does his show on. I didn't have any
real beef with him.
No, it's just
me being a dumb.
Well,
kid
and he's the guy. Okay, I was talking about this with my brother the other day, and I go, it's weird when you see someone in high school at the high school level, and you see them in person and like, for example, this guy, he was just like on the 50-yard line casually throwing
50-yard bombs.
And I was like, okay. I mean, like I had a decent arm, but I mean, that's like he's going to D1 college, right?
Right.
And possibly the pros.
His dad's a legendary coach.
Yeah, and he had that secret weapon of his dad as the coach and his brother
to benefit him.
Yeah, in the NFL or whatever. But so it is crazy seeing that kind of. I mean, when you see it, you're just like, oh shit, yeah. Like, I mean, that guy
it's just different level of talent.
Yeah, we were watching the Randy Moss documentary the other day, and it's like, I mean, you see these old highlights and you're like, and he's just casually just leaping over people, like over their heads and shit. And you're like, okay, I mean, come on. Like,
well, and he didn't play in the pros, but I don't know if you remember when we played Port Angeles in high school and there was that Joel Thomas, that running back that Port Angeles had. And he played like, I think he held rushing records at University of Idaho for a while. I don't think he made it to the pros. It might've been a cup of coffee if he did, but like, here's a guy that was that big of a standout and never really even made it to these. Like, it's incredible.
But anyway, so if you're playing them, you got to get hyped up. Like, I mean, I remember, I will never forget when we're I don't know who hung it up. I don't know if it was the coach. It had to be one of the coaches. But they're
Jones,
like,
he was the master of multiple decisions. He was. Jones was great.
They're like, they had like the write-ups of like, hey, this is Huard's, his favorite stuff. And like, you found it in the newspaper or something like that. Yeah. His favorite book, the Bible. And it's like, oh, come on. It's like, everyone's just like, homo, Yeah. And so it was just like everyone just getting people riled up. And then, of course, you're like the ultimate,
I get riled up. I was I was out of control.
And all those like guys on our defense were a bunch of fucking assholes.
Assholes. Well, then on top of, you remember, Josh, my junior year got cut short because I got a knee injury where I got my knee folded up.
Yeah, I think I talked to you about that in the pod where I go, that was the greatest speech I've ever heard. And you're like, and I wasn't there. I wasn't allowed to be there. And I'm like, no.
That's like,
so you didn't hear that?
I'm super sensitive to my knee. It finally gets all healed up. I get back, and so as you remember, like, even we played like our Sandlot games. If anyone went low during my knee, I lost my mind. And and I feel so bad because that's why I was such a
just let him go.
Yeah, we're like, well, how else are you going to tackle me? But go low.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way to tackle him.
Throwing punches, like, stay away from it.
There's no way to tackle you.
Well, in that game against Puyallup, where obviously Brock, we're playing him and we're not supposed to stand a chance because they've got the Huard kid and we played exceptionally well. But partway through the game, the lineman, to my opinion, kept trying to cut me. Whether or not they actually did, I don't know. They seem like they're going to my knee. And now I'm like,
it's kind of like the Jordan documentary where it's like he builds like
I built it. But I'm not emotionally controlled. Like I'm like angry and upset. And then BJ Prince next to me, God rest him, fantastic football player, but just another absolute psychopath on the field.
Total psycho.
He's like throwing, like he's getting me riled. We're feeding off each other like these mother, like, and we're like, at the end, there's a play where I don't think we should have got a 50-yard penalty. Where like basically BJ and I decided on the snap of the ball, we're going to come out and just like throw a haymaker at their throat. And like, I'm angry. So the game's over. We've won. Huge upset.
Yeah. We
go into those locker rooms because that game was played at French Field, if you recall. So we go underneath. Sam Farmer, who's the local writer for the Valley Daily News or whatever, our little local newspaper, which by the way goes on later to write for like the freaking LA Times. Like this guy became big time. But Sam had a great relationship with Jonesy, and I'm lucky he put in only a smidge of what I said because I just so happens I'm the first guy, and we had a big conversation the week before because we had won the Taylor Trophy.
Yeah.
And so that game and holding up the trophy, whatever, and he talked and we talked on the side. So like I think he knew that. I guess I gave him more than just like, and we did a good team. Like I obviously talked too much and spout off. I have verbal diarrhea.
What were some of the things that you said, Ethan?
I said that Brock Huard was overrated. I said, and some of the stuff I said, that's what got published. It got me in trouble with Jones.
Yeah.
And that was just me being like underrated. I mean, overrated. Come on, dude. Like this guy's, like you said, this is the most talented.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I was so angry. I said his offense linemen are a bunch of cheap shot pussies. I was like, I said all this. Like I said, I was lucky that he just put in the little bit he did put in because I was just spouting off emotional anger. And finally Jones comes over and goes, shut your, like tells me to shut up, tells Farmer, please, like realizes them. Like, and so the next day, of course, it's published. I come to school on Monday because this was a time before you get texts or any of those things or emails. Come to school Monday. And like I had first period TA with Jones because I got kicked out of my geometry class to make room for smart kids.
Yeah.
So because that Maz, he did a good job. Never mind. So I come in and he immediately has the article and he's doing that red face thing again. He's looking at it. He's like, guess who's going to run stairs? And he's just like, I'm running the stairs the entire period. He's just standing there halfway through just screaming at me about, you're going to write a letter of apology to Mr. Huard.
Did you really?
I had to write letters of apology to Brock and to Coach Huard for being a piece of shit. I had to write like, Jones made me like eat the poop sandwich, but honestly was the best thing that maybe could have ever happened to me. Like it was a lesson in think before you speak, you dumbass. And like he gave me so many others when I was coaching with him.
Or, hey, what's the Barry Sanders? Barry Sanders.
Act like you've been here before.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just, none of that handled. Like I said, I was an emotional wreck from all the crap I was going on and family life. And not to make any excuses. Like I said, I am so freaking lucky. I had so many great people weighing in and, pushing me, nudging me in the right direction, like a Bob Jones, even a Brame, as much as I see, like he was a fantastic mentor. And obviously I got to coach with Bob for 5 years after we got done playing. So like just all those amazing lessons and stories of like when I want to go ballistic on a kid, he's like, you can't, or I'm pissed because one of these other coaches isn't putting any work in.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't get it, do you? And he goes, maybe I have him on the staff because he's fantastic for kids. And I don't care if he spends 25 hours watching film. That's why I had your dumbass. How about you watch the film and you tell him because he can make like, there's things he taught me so much about coaching, dealing with human beings. Like Bob was one of the best mentors anyone could ever ask for. And he was just to play for him as a player and then work with him for 5 years is like the dad I needed. And God bless him. I mean,
Ethan, remember a couple of years later when we went to see Brock Huard play for the Seahawks?
Yeah. Well, you remember what Bob used to like to say every time, whether it was him playing in a game for the UW, whether it was him playing for the Seahawks, whether it was him announcing a college football game, and Bob, without fail, I get a text. Hey, Ethan, that Brock Huard's sure overrated, isn't he, you jackass? And I'm like, God damn it, Bob. Like, I love it. You just continue to stick it to you. And I deserved it. Like, it was
so fantastic.
But that's just what I love about Bob. Like, he would just like, he constantly took every one of those opportunities to try to help make me a better human being. And my God, I needed a lot of it. Because like I said, it was a little bit rough around the edges.
Bob is awesome.
He was the best. But
he was.
I remember one time too, I can't remember if you were with me or not, but we were in Seattle crossing a street and we think Huard pulled up in front of us. And I go, isn't that Brock here in the car? And then I just being stupid and trying to impress you guys, like said, hey, you mother, like I said something stupid. And I think,
he's just casually like,
he just kind of looked like, what? Like, didn't even have the decency to speak. And like, that's how immature and pathetic I was. Like I said, I have mad respect for the guy now. Like he is one of the better sports commentators. And I love listening to Brock and Suck. Like I actually pull up the Seattle Sports Radio often when I'm like at lunch at school or whatever, just let it play in the background. And
yeah, they're pretty good.
They're really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's that.
Man. this is like really like I'm almost like
You're like, is this a good show or is this bad? Like all I'm doing is ripping on myself?
It's good. It's good because it's a good reminder of just like what a piece of crap.
It's a teachable experience.
Exactly, and it's like. Remember, don't judge those kids or those people in your life. They can grow up to be decent people. I mean, I'm not saying I'm completely decent, but I fooled my wife. She's been married to me for 20-something years.
That's true. So you have the people that grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. They could grow up to be great people.
Absolutely.
And then you have the people that grew up with their dad, the head coach, and with all their brothers playing D1.
You could also grow up with how many people have it all set up for them and become absolute
total
Peckerwoods,
well, that happens a lot.
Often.
Right?
So it's
like
no guarantees in life.
Not everyone's a Nepo baby. Sometimes you're a piece of shit baby.
Yeah.
Like, you get everything handed to you and then you just become a drunk or, some sort of loser.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's crazy. What's the craziest thing happened to you in high school, college years there, Josh?
High school, college years.
You haven't talked on the spot. It's probably tough. You talked about a lot on the spot. You've been very transparent.
Yeah.
Very honest about a lot of these great stories.
High school and college. What's the craziest? Basically everything that I did crazy was kind of like
tame to the average person.
I remember one time, the first time I drank tequila, because I wasn't a tequila. I was mostly just beer.
Yeah.
I drank tequila one time, and then we went out to the bars. Or we were on our way to the bars, I think, and someone pissed me off, something, and I jumped out, and I ran across the street, and I jumped into the Ganges, and they're like, "What are you doing?
Purpose?
What are you doing?"
Did you think you were going to jump across it and fell into it?
And it's like pitch dark. We're on our way to the bars. They're like, "What are you doing, you weirdo?"
That was really like the irrigation ditch.
I was like, "Oh, you don't jump into the Ganges." There's like raw sewage running through the. I don't know.
Did you still go to the bars wet and everything, or did you?
I don't even remember.
That
probably not. Maybe he was coming back from. I have no idea. But like, I remember, everyone likes to bring up the time that I was like sitting there. You remember the old bar, the Mint?
Oh yeah, I know the Mint.
And like the Mint had this dance. It had this little square of a dance floor, and then right at the end of each side was the guys' bathroom and the girls' bathroom, and then in between that was a couch that was like this big, and it was like perfectly right in the middle of the. And I sat there, and I crossed my legs, and I passed out. People were like lap dancing on me and stuff. And I was like, they're like, that was great, dude. I was like, oh, I was passed out. They're like,
I don't remember any of that.
Oh, that's great.
That's funny.
Yeah. I like all mine are like just bar related. And
well, it's weird too, because like so many of my buddies, when I, being an old man by the time I made it to Central, made it in the football team, a lot of the guys I'm hanging out with that are my buddies, like a Robbie Williams, they're not old enough to go to the bars.
Oh, that's right.
I was at a bunch of house parties.
That's right.
That were just like,
get the cops called on you.
Like, and I'm just like, it's really weird when you're way older than everyone around you. And then you realize
it's like, let me check your ID. And he's like, what are you doing, man?
Well, these freshmen are hanging out and like realize they're just hoping that you'll buy them beer.
Yeah, you're the guy from Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
you're like,
I'm Wooderson, basically.
And I think about these college girls.
It was weird. Like, there were two other guys that were roughly my age as well, like around that time, that were older guys for variety. Like, one of them was like, I don't know, I think he was in the military. One of them played like 5 years of professional baseball for the Rockies and then came home. Yeah. Like, the white, I'm like, I was just in school for a really long time. It took me 5 years to pull my head up my ass and get a 2-year degree and finally transfer to Central. Because, I transferred up there 5 years after
that's right. Yeah.
I had 99.
Like,
you were just getting out right when I came out.
It's kind of sucked.
People that went to school,
because I recruited you and Lee to go to and then you guys actually went, and then I was like, oh shit, I'm leaving, man.
Out of here, man. I'm graduating.
I gotta find a job, and you guys are out here having a good time. Well, this sucks.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, because I don't think I even got out of there to 01.
Oh, really?
Like
okay. Yeah.
Because Sarah's a 96 graduate, and she was actually good at school, so she was cranking right along. So I know she graduated before me, even though I graduated high school 2 years before. I did end up double majoring, but that doesn't.
Going back to that house, you guys had all those house parties.
That house was
I know
awesome.
that we have another podcast in us that we want to do with Lee and possibly
Robbie.
Williams,
please, yes.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do that because that's a whole podcast in itself.
It is.
But I remember, this is horrible because I just heard this stat about, I don't know who it was. It was somebody on your football team. And we were watching some highlight of some Hawaiian guy.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, you know what I heard? I heard that I can't remember the stat. It was like, I heard that 85% of the people in Hawaii are like inbred. And then it was like just dead silence. But there was like 6 guys, like everyone was like sitting around in this room. And when I say was silent, we're talking dead silent, right? Dead silent. And that's weird if you know what I'm talking about, because no one in that fucking room ever was silent.
No.
Everyone was always like, you know, you making
Super
jokes or whatever.
Jokes cracking.
And then I look over at Ethan. Ethan kind of does one of those side kind of like looks, and one of your guys in your team is like this big Hawaiian dude, and he must have been 300 pounds. And he's looking at me like he wants to kill me, but then he starts laughing, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I almost pissed myself. I don't know who it was. You probably know. I have no idea. But I was like,
I mean, we had a couple different.
I was like, "Holy shit!" And maybe you guys were just fucking with me. Maybe it wasn't even Hawaiian. It was like just
could have been. I mean, that's kind of, Robbie would be the one to come and like pick something up that quick. But
oh god, I was like, "Oh shit." Okay.
Well, there were guys like Marlo that were like a mutt. Like I think he had like 75 different people, like ethnicities in him. He was like, "I'm part Eskimo." I'm like, "What?"
You know,
every time something else, I'm part that. I'm like, "How are you? What are you part like 25 different?"
I always talk about like there's this one. We have this script where we have to ask these questions like at this job that I have.
Yeah.
And one of them is like, and I hate it. I hate saying like, "All right, so what's your ethnicity, race?" And I'm like, God, I hate asking that question. And because like some people are like, "Well, I refuse to answer that." And I'm like, that's one of the choices. Like I can say, I don't want to answer. Right. But some of them are like, I mean, I'm like a mutt. I'm like, I'm a ton of things. And I'm like, and my response to that is like, I mean, aren't we all at this point?
Yeah,
like,
kind of to a degree.
I mean,
but
there's
if you're
like
white. You might be a mutt of European descent.
There's tons of
white.
Yeah, but like if you take one of those tests, like there's like
that's true.
There's a lot of mutts walking around.
I have a buddy I teach with.
Yeah.
And he took the test and he came back like a percentage Neanderthal. I'm like, what? And if you see him, it totally makes sense. But I'm like, what?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of the
Does he look like that guy on the Geico commercials that's like always annoyed at everything?
I look more like the Geico caveman than he probably does. Like I probably should come up Neanderthal with my forehead, but my buddy.
I've always loved those commercials. I mean, they didn't they try to do a spinoff of a TV show about that?
I'm sure
it didn't work. But the fact that that guy, the whole premise of that is like everything offends him, and he's always pissed off and like annoyed with everybody.
A caveman could do it.
Seriously, we apologize. We had no idea you guys were still around.
Yeah, next time maybe do a little research.
Gentlemen, are we ready to order?
I'll have the roast duck with the mango salsa. I don't have much of an appetite, thank you.
It's funny because like when we have these conversations, I look up at the clock here, and it's like we've already been talking for an hour.
What?
That's crazy.
Are you? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, all right then.
It started with our troubled youth, and moved into our. Well, we didn't move very far. We moved into college youth.
I probably told some of these stories before accidentally on the pod, so I apologize if I would be.
Well, you did, but nobody could see you telling them, so like you see the anguish, and the
anguish,
pain. Yeah. All right, we'll have to do it again, man.
Yes, sir.
We'll have to do it again,
my friend.
Thanks for coming down, buddy.
Yeah.
Hope you have a nice flight back.
I hope so too.
And
flights.
Yeah. For Ethan McDonald, I'm Josh, and as always, thank you
for
being a friend.